Hey guys, I just wanted to do a video on how to use a tracking app, and the one I'm going to use is basically to show you what MyFitnessPal is like. I have a lot of different apps that I've used before, but MyFitnessPal seems to be the most user friendly, but it's not necessarily always the most accurate because anybody can input whatever they want. So you have to really be careful of the accuracy that you're entering, and just because the app tells you certain macronutrients, especially if you're eating out, does not mean that it is accurate. So you have to be careful and learn to double check. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You can't assume it's always right. So you have to learn to double check, and that's what I'm going to show you. So here is MyFitnessPal. I'm going to use that. I'm going to pull it up, and this is mine. Now, if you're just starting out using MyFitnessPal, it's going to walk you through creating a username and password, and you're going to set up a bunch of, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions about your stats and whatnot, but whatever macronutrients or calories that it gives you or prescribes to you, do not listen to it. Everything in that goals section is, I inputted that myself, but they will technically give you what you should be eating, but don't believe it because it's not accurate. It doesn't know your body type, and that's what us coaches do, is tell you how much you should be eating based off your history so that we have a lot more accuracy and everything that's going on. But once you get used to this app, you will be able to fine tune things and hit the goal on in the middle column there, and it will be a lot more useful in that aspect. So when you start entering food in, once you build your database, it becomes very, very easy. I literally track my food probably a total of 5 minutes a day on the average, maybe a little bit more if I have a new food item I'm entering in. But typically my database is so large that it doesn't take me very long to enter it in. Once you get that down, it becomes very smooth and very easy. So I'm going to get started. So I'm going to start with the first meal, hit the plus sign, and I'm going to hit the food where the fork and knife is, because I've labeled my meals. And this is a basic breakdown. There's a lot to do in this app, but I'm going to try and run through it quick. My first meal, let's say I had breakfast. I'm going to touch the breakfast part. Now, you basically, this is my database of the most recent items that I've eaten. Now, these are the most common foods that I've eaten in the last, few months. And here's my most frequent meal or foods that I eat. And since my database is very large, it's very easy for me to enter things in. So let's say I'm going to eat eggs. So I'm going to hit the search bar up here and type in eggs. And so I usually eat, actually I'll hit the frequent or the recent. So the most recent ones that I've eaten are the egg whites, and then I also have whole eggs in there in a different, if I search whole eggs. But let's say I had 8 egg whites. So I'm just going to click on the servings. This is based off 1 egg white. So I'm going to hit 8. Roughly the macros are 32 grams of protein, 0 fat, 0 carbs. And also down below, it asks you if you usually pair it with something. These are the most common foods that I pair them with. So I typically have either 1 or 2 whole eggs. So I actually will click on the large egg, and I'll hit the check mark up here. It puts it in for me, but since I only had 1, I have to change the large egg to just 1. And since I know these macronutrients are correct, I'm okay to enter them in. Now let's say I wanted to add a pair, so I'm going to hit add food in the breakfast column. Let's say I had a pear, so I'm going to click search and I'll just type in pear since I already have that in my database. And once you find it, and I'll show you how to create food. So this is in my database. So now let's say this is based off a serving size of 100 grams. I don't like doing the cups or anything like that because it's not accurate. So you have to be careful. You want to weigh out your food. And I put this based off 100 grams in weight. So let's say I ate weighed out a pear that was 167 grams in weight, let's just say, on the edible part that I'm going to be eating, not the core, not the seeds, nothing like that. So I'll hit 1.67 because that's equivalent to 167 grams in weight, and that's what the macronutrients are. 25 grams of carbs, essentially no fat, no protein hardly. I'll hit the check mark. That's what I ate. And let's say I also had a bowl of oatmeal. So I had myoatmeal.com's oatmeal. I'll click add food, search again. I actually named it, and I'll show you how to do this. Um, I call it, it's my steel cut oats, and it's my Z glutes of peace oatmeal. That's what I named it. You can name the oatmeal on the website. But let's say I had a serving and a half. So that would be actually 60 grams in weight of the oatmeal that I'm having. You can look on the label, it'll tell you how much is in per serving. So if I have one and a half, which would be 60 grams in weight, I'll just type in 1.5 and I have my macronutrient ranges already filled in, check mark. And I don't have any I didn't eat any of these other ones with my meal. So I'm just gonna hit the check, and this is my meal. Let's just say this is meal one. So now I want to find out the total macronutrients that I've eaten so far. So I would just go to home on the bottom left, and there's my macronutrient profile that I've eaten so far. I've eaten 45 grams of protein, 69 grams of carbs, and 8 grams of fat. Sometimes it ends up like this. Actually, hold on. It'll end up like this. So you're like, how do I find out my macros? So I'm just looking at my percentages, and you don't want, I mean, it's a good rule of thumb. You can look at this, but you want to go in this little pie next to the top right. You'll see those lines. You want to click that, and that's where you get your macronutrient profile. So sometimes you have to navigate around if it's hard to find. I have that as my home setting, so that's easy for me. Now, if I want to, you just keep doing that throughout the day. And next I'll do my lunch. You know, there's common foods that I typically eat. Like let's say I had a chicken breast. Now this is a brand I've eaten in the past, natural ground chicken, um, boneless, skinless chicken breast. Let's try that. I've eaten that in the past, and I know that's roughly accurate because I've measured it and weighed it out. And this is based off per ounce. So let's say I had 8 ounces. I'm just going to hit 8 ounces. It says 72 grams of protein, which is quite a bit in a meal. But let's just say I ate it. You know, it's tracking it for me. Now, when you get to complicated stuff, and there's items that just don't have food labels, and you don't know the macronutrients for it, you go to calorieking.com and look up the item. So, like for example, when I put a pear in, I created that food because I wanted to get accuracy. I wasn't gonna look up a medium pear, a large pear, a small pear, because it's very different and it's not very accurate. You want to get accuracy with how much you're truly eating. Now, if I want to create a food, what I'm going to do is I will actually go to food, and let's say I'm going to create a food item here. So I'll click on my foods, and I'll just scroll to the bottom and see where it says create new food. Now let's say I wanted to eat a pear or create a pear. So I will type in what it is, and then I'll type in a description of a descriptive, you can put like Asian pear, let's just say, or Bartlett. And you want to put the serving size, so I will put it on as 100 grams in weight because it's simplified for me, and that is basically one serving. 100 grams of weight is one serving, so I'll just hit the next arrow, and then you put in the total calories. So I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but I'm sort of shooting at the hip, so don't go off what I'm doing, but I'm just showing you how to fill it out. So let's just say it's 50 calories. This is assuming you're looking it up. 15 carbs per 100 grams, 0.2 per 100 grams, Actually, I just put, for some reason, it won't let me do a decimal, but I'll just put 0 since it's very little. And you don't have to worry about saturated fats or anything like that. You could put sodium if there is sodium. This one's essentially 0, but if you did have it, I would put sodium in there, and I'd also put fiber. So I think this is about 3 grams of fiber. And sugars you can put in, I think it's about 10, but you don't really have to count and track your sugars. Hit the check mark, and now it's entered. You see it in the breakfast section. It says barley pear. Now, since I already ate that, I can delete that because it's already in my system. Basically, it's saying that I want it as my breakfast. So now when I look it up again and I actually type in barley pear, it's at the top of the list. So now that's everything that I entered, and I could put, let's say, 187 grams in weight. It automatically adds it up for me. So it's pretty simple. You can actually create, oh, and on these tabs, you don't really have, so the status is kind of like Facebook. You can post your updates, people chime in and help motivate each other. Water, you don't really have to track unless you really want to. The exercise part, you can put that in there, but once again, do not listen to their recommendations because for some reason they actually increase your calories and how much you should be eating. So do not listen to it. And your weight, you can use that to track your weight. Now, if you do, you saw me create a new food item. Anybody can enter whatever they want. One example that I really irritates me that this app just does not have any control over or regulation over anything anyone enters. Let's say you want to drink alcohol and you want vodka. It's usually a big thing that people usually get thrown off big time. So let's just do the top one. You see this, how it says 0 all across the board, no fats, no carbs, no protein. So when people look at that, they usually think, wow, this is awesome. I get to have all the vodka I want, and it's essentially 0 carbs. It's nothing. It's free. I get to have all I want. Well, that's not true. You want to find out the total calories, which I wouldn't go off MyFitnessPal. I would actually look up the company name on the internet and find out what the total calories are per ounce. You add up the total calories that you're drinking and divide it by 4, and you can put it in your total carbs for the day. And a quick thing that you can do is just type in carb. Now let's say you had 1 ounce is 50 calories. Let's just say 50 calories per ounce, and you had a total of 21 ounces. So you had 21 ounces of vodka. I know it's a lot. 50 calories. So you had 1,000 calories of just vodka. You divide that by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram of carb. So you had 262 grams of carbs of vodka. So now you're going to go in here, just type in your carbs, 262, boom, you're done. Now you just know that those carbs are your vodka. So now you have a lot of carbs that you've eaten just from alcohol alone. So that goes for beer. Even, if you have like Michelob Ultra, sometimes I think they say it's like 4 or 6 grams of carbs, but really it's 120 or 128 grams or calories, I'm sorry. Now you have to take that divided by 4. So let's say you had a bottle of beer that's 120 calories in it. You got to put those calories somewhere because 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories. That's almost double the calories of carbs. So you divide that by 4, and you'll put in 30 grams of carbs for that bottle of beer instead of the 6 that you thought you were eating or drinking. So you have to be really careful. So you also can create my foods, which I did. You can create meals. So let's say my breakfast. Let's say this is a meal I always eat every single morning, the same exact measurements, same exact everything to the T. You can save a meal. What I did is I went to more at the bottom of the breakfast area, save meal, and then I named it, I don't know, common breakfast. And then that's exactly what I do, and then I hit check and it automatically saves it. So next time, let's say tomorrow, I'm tracking my food, I'll hit my breakfast, I can go to meal, and hit common breakfast, and there it is. It's already there. So it becomes simplified. And now let's say I wanted to create a recipe. Same thing you can do is create a new recipe. I wouldn't worry about quick add calories because it doesn't give you macronutrients to do, so don't even worry about that. But you can create recipes from the web. You can enter ingredients manually. It's all what you make of this app and how much effort you put into things to make sure things are accurate. Now, let's say you type in Olive Garden. Oops, I can't spell. And let's say you're ready to kill a big lasagna classico. You know, you look at it, you're like, man, this is just coming straight from the menu. This has to be right because every chef is the same all across the nation, and this just has to be right. But yet you have this giant bowl of pasta and lasagna, and you automatically assume that this is correct. But in reality, it probably is way more than you think. So if you're eating out, good rule of thumb is first think logically and common sense. If you know that it's way more than what it's telling you, kind of overshoot. You can put two. Granted, that's a lot of fat, but you just have to be realistic. Let's say you had at the same place, a Caesar salad, but yet it's just drenched in ranch. But you have, or I'm sorry, it's Caesar salad, so it's just caked in Caesar dressing. You know that it's not tens of grams of fat. Like you have to be realistic. There's, I've seen restaurants, they have actually salads are probably one of the worst foods you can order from the menu because the fats are so high. And Dr. Joe has actually gone into restaurants before and measured how much dressing they're putting on salads, and he was coming out to be like over 70 grams of fat per salad on most salads. So it's quite a bit. Like an example for this, if you're drenching it with Caesar dressing, then you need to be realistic and put in more. Or you can just do it individually of the salad. You can type in the lettuce, and type in tomatoes if you're having tomatoes, type in the dressing, um, type in everything that you think or see on it, and just be realistic. Also, another quick thing that you can do if you're adding, meals, you can do quick items. So you can pick things multiple and multiply them. So let's say I wanted 6 of this, check. It's gonna add it up. Let's say I wanted this and I did 2.5. It'll check. It automatically added up. And then when I'm ready and I ate it, I can just add 3. Boom, done. So now, real quick, let's say I did another meal and I have a barcode, and you can scan barcodes. So what you'll do is the bottom right corner, you'll click on that little scanner thing, and you can scan the food item. Let's say this is a scanner, and I'm going to scan the food item, okay? The nutrition facts should come up. And the key is you have to make sure that it is coming up accurately, otherwise it's not going to work. Like I can do this water. I know it's just water, but you can see that you have to make sure the nutrition facts actually add up to the back of the label. And you have to put in exactly how much you're entering or eating. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And if it doesn't match the bottom right corner, you can click that and then enter in what it really is. And I think that covers it. If not, if you have any questions at all, this is a great useful app, only if you use it appropriately. Most commonly, the calories that are in this, I would not really trust either because you would be surprised how much the macronutrients it says on the app do not match the amount of calories that it says you're eating. So the moral of the story is do not trust everything it says unless you know for a fact it's accurate, especially the macronutrients, your protein, carbs, fats, and your fiber. So I hope this was useful, and let me know if you have any questions at all.